Here we go. Hello everyone, it's me, Elise. Welcome back to my channel. I am so awkward. I wanted to do a summer reading wrap up because I read some pretty awesome books this summer. So the last 2 years I've challenged myself to read 50 books in a year, which I think is quite a lot for most people and for anyone really. I mean, like, if you read one book, you go like Coco. That's awesome because that's you choosing to put that time into reading, and I think that's amazing. However, this year I went a little insane, especially over the summer. This summer I have read so many books. I didn't even count how many books I read, but it has been a lot. I'm going to tell you about the books that I read, give you a very short synopsis and a very quick wrap up of my ideas, my thoughts about them. Now, I know May is not technically summer. I know half of June is not technically summer, but let's be real. May is when kids get out of school for summer. So like in my brain, it's summer. It's summer. So we are doing from May until August. If you've read any of these books, please let me know down below. I would love to know your thoughts. If they match mine, if they're different from mine, I would still love to hear. Let's get started. I'm one of those like psycho people who tracks what I read in 3 different apps. I track it in my notes app, I track it on Goodreads, and I track it on Storygraph. So if you want to be my friend on Goodreads or Storygraph, I'll link it down below. Sometimes when I'm bored, I just scroll through Goodreads and Storygraph and see what my friends are reading. It's casual. Okay, starting in May, we started off strong with Ruby Dixon's Willa's Beast. Now this is part of the Ice Home series. First she has her Ice Planet Barbarian series right up here, and Ice Home is a spin-off on the same planet. Some of the characters do interact and intertwine, but Willa's Beast, I believe, is the third. I think it's the third in the Ice Home series. So basically they just got to the planet. The Beast, Gren, is an old gladiator and he doesn't speak their same language, so everyone thinks he's like snarling at them all the time. He's not. But basically they treat him very poorly and so he runs away. But Willa was his friend, and so Willa wants to go and find him and help him, so she does. She helps him run away. And we have the romance that ensues from there. It was fun. Not my favorite of the Ice Home stories, but I still really enjoyed it. The second book in May is Layla by Colleen Hoover. I listened to this on audiobook. It was pretty fun. Definitely spooky. The synopsis does not tell you that it's a ghost story, which like really threw me for a loop, but I got sucked into the story. I would say it's very unique. The ending had me a little bit uncomfortable, but you know, so basically in Layla and this guy, I forgot his name completely, get together and like it's this whirlwind romance and things are going amazing, and then this tragic accident happens and Layla is just not the same. So the guy takes her to where they first met, hoping it will kind of jog her memory, make things happen, and that's where the spooky things start happening, and it was fun. It was a good listen. That is a really good read for this fall if you want kind of a spooky read. Next we have Meet Me in the Margins by Melissa Ferguson. This is a clean contemporary romance. It was so cute. Again, I don't remember the characters' names, but the main girl is, I believe she works at a publishing house, and they don't do romance. Romances are dirty books, but she has always wanted to write romance, and she does. And so she's trying to get it published, and this new owner, this young CEO, kind of finds it, and she's like, oh no, he's gonna turn me in. He doesn't, but someone else finds it, finds where she hides it from him, and starts editing it. And so they create this relationship through these side notes in the margins of her manuscript, and it's so cute, so cute. I loved it. Next we have my first physical read of the summer, and it is Devil in Disguise by Lisa Kleypas. And this is not the first book in the series. However, I did not feel like I was out of the loop. Basically, Lady Merritt, she is like this badass biatch. She runs her own company. Yes, queen. But this one guy, Kier, comes and he has like a whiskey, like a distillery company. But as he's delivering, like, crazy stuff is happening, and she kind of starts getting the feels for him, and she's like, we're gonna figure this out. It was really fun, and I really enjoyed it. So I definitely will be reading more Lisa Kleypas books in the future. Next, I listened to One of Us is Dead by Geneva Rose on Audible, on audiobook, and that was so fun. I don't think I've ever enjoyed a thriller that much, and the narrators did a really good job too. It kept me on my toes the whole time. So basically, there's like this group of women who live in this town. They are the up and up, they got the money, so basically their job is to like look good and help the community and gossip. Something is happening. A divorce is involved, and that lady needs to get out. So that just like starts this domino effect of like gossip and things happening that are maybe a little sketchy between the women. Friendships are frayed. It was very interesting, but you know throughout the whole book, because of the title, that one of them dies and one of them is the killer. But you don't find out until like the last chapter, which drove me a little bit nuts, but it was also really well done. So the next book I read actually was a physical read, but I already donated it to my library. It's The Rest of the Story by Sarah Dessen. This girl's father gets married, and him and his new wife are going on a honeymoon, and the dad wants her to go on the honeymoon too, but she's like, no, absolutely not. So she goes to live with her estranged family, her family from her actual mother that she hasn't been in contact with for a long time. So she's staying with them for like 3 weeks. Things just happen, and she starts learning about her past. She learns more about herself, what she wants with her future. There's a little bit of romance. It's really sweet, but it's really slow paced and repetitive in my opinion, but really super cute read. I definitely recommend for like teenager who likes slow paced discover yourself romance. The next book is The Traitor Queen by Danielle L. Jensen. I really enjoyed this series, the Bridge Kingdom series. I listened to it on audio, and I love the narrators. They do a fantastic job. I really like the action. It was a lot of action. I don't know what to tell you without spoiling the first book. Let's just say it's gonna spoil the first book. Anyway, they're in this kingdom where a bridge it like goes through the ocean, but there's like a lot of tiny islands, and that's like the Bridge Kingdom. The islands rule the bridge, but something happens and the bridge gets out of their rule, and what ensues in this book is kind of like taking care of that, sort of. It's a really good fantasy romance book, and I highly recommend it. Our next physical read of the summer is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I pre-ordered this. I annotated it. I have so much fun reading it. I just loved Nora so much. Nora and I had a lot of similarities, and I just really connected with her. I will say, basically, this book is marketed as a romance, and I think the romance is subplot. I think they did a disservice marketing this as a romance. It's a contemporary romance book where two sisters go to a small town and reconnect with each other. But the main character is Nora, and Nora is she's the lady that sells authors' books to publishers. I totally forgot what that was. It was just so fun and so quirky. I really enjoyed it. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but for me it was. The next book was The Brightsiders by Jen Wild. I listened to this on audiobook. I believe it was free on Audible. This was fun. I loved the rock star aspect of it. I loved the queer romance of it. I found it a little bit repetitive in my opinion, and some of the circumstances that they were in were just not believable, but it was like a fun listen. Next physical read is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. I really enjoyed this. Her writing was so smooth like butter. There is this ceremony for the women of these villages, and if their blood runs red, they're fine, they're accepted, they are women in the society. They can finally get married and have children. But if their blood runs gold, they are outcast or killed. So her blood runs gold and she gets put in this prison and she doesn't know what's going to happen, and then she gets found by this society who collects these women of gold blood and turns them into warriors. And it was just so fascinating. I loved the character growth. I loved the action. I'm very excited for the next one, The Merciless Ones. I believe it's out, but I prefer paperback, so I'm waiting for the paperback. Next, I read Guild by Raven Kennedy. This was on Kindle Unlimited. It's a Midas retelling. And this woman gets turned to gold. She is gold. She has these like ribbon things that do her bidding, and this book, the series has a lot of potential, but in the first book I wasn't impressed because everything happened to her. She didn't do anything. So now that the books are back on Kindle Unlimited, I want to try and finish this series, but it's just not at the top of my list. Next, I listened to Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery. This was read by Rachel McAdams, and she did such an amazing job. I loved it so much. She brought so much personality to Anne. I love this story. I've watched the Netflix series, not the last season, but the first 2 seasons, and it's so cute, so sweet. So I kind of knew what was going to happen, but it was still a really fun listen. The next physical read was Set on You by Amy Leah. This was such a cute rom-com. Basically, Crystal is a fitness influencer, but she's also curvy. So she's very much about like doing what works for you and your body and what feels good for you, not necessarily looking a certain way. She gets tied up with this one firefighter, Scott Ritchie, but she doesn't know he's a firefighter at first. It begins with them like being gym enemies. So that's like the enemies to lover aspect of this book. It's really fun. I thought it was really well done with all of the tropes and all of the body positivity and having a fat or curvy main character. I just really thought it was well done. It made me laugh. I think I read this in a day. Next, I read Perks of Being a Wallflower. I borrowed this from my library, so I don't have it on me right now. I've watched the movie, so it wasn't anything new to me, but I really enjoyed seeing things from his perspective, like from his thoughts. It was kind of heartbreaking, but also like beautiful at the same time. Next, I read It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. I've owned this book on my Kindle app for so long. I bought it when it was like 99 cents on sale, and I loved it so much. I loved Piper like so much. She's such a ditz, but like so cute, and she has such a big heart. Basically what happens is Piper gets into this mess. She basically lives off her daddy's money, her stepdaddy's money, and doesn't really do things because she's like, why should I work if this is my life? Like, what's the point? So she gets in this big mess at a party and ends up getting arrested, and so her stepdad sends her to her hometown where she was born, where her dad was from, to kind of work and see what it's like to earn a living. And she works at the local pub and everything and meets this guy, Brendan, and I loved them. I loved it so much. It's spicy too. I'm a fan. That was really fun. My next read was Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. I was so excited to read this. Lily Wilder didn't have the best relationship with her father. What happens is she ends up inheriting her father's company for like adventures, and she's just like trying to do more. So that's where we meet her. She's taking her last expedition before she hopefully does more with her life, and things go awry. Perhaps her ex happens to be on the trip, and it's a mess. It was a hot mess. This book gave me so much anxiety. I didn't like how unbelievable some of the things were. I mean, literally everything bad that could have happened. However, like once I just let that go, it was a really fun read. It was very action-packed, very high-paced, fast-paced. Next, I read Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. It's the second in the Bellinger sisters, the sequel to It Happened One Summer. That one has to do with Piper's sister. I believe her name is Hannah, and Fox. Fox is Brendan's best friend, and it kind of starts out as like them being friends, so it's friends to lovers. I really liked the journey that Fox went on in the book. Basically, Hannah, her job is an assistant to a director, and she's trying to make a name for herself aside from her family's name, and she suggests that they film some of the scenes in her hometown where she was born, where her sister now lives, and it works. And so she's making this name for herself. Obviously some things go down, so she ends up living with Fox. Things go down, friends to lovers situation. It wasn't my favorite, but it was still a fun read. Next, I read Verity by Colleen Hoover. Whew, I went into this blind. I heard that it was like pretty messed up and pretty wild. And it was, but I think I read this in 4.5 hours. I could not put it down. It was wild. I will say, I think it's good to go in blind. However, I fully recommend you reading the trigger warnings because there are definitely triggers in here, and I think you should be prepared for that. However, if those triggers are okay for you, aka they aren't triggering for you, then I recommend reading this book blind because woof, that was a ride. The next book I read is also a physical book, but a friend is borrowing it right now, and that is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was my first book from her, and like, wow, was it a roller coaster. I also read this in one sitting. It goes through the life of Evelyn Hugo, and it's just, wow, she goes through so much. You go, girl. Like, you do you. I just feel like sometimes there's not enough of that in the world. I guess sometimes there's too much of it, but I feel like there's so many times in your life where you're expected to worry about others more than yourself, and so I think it was just refreshing that she went for herself. This is a very gritty book. Very gritty. It's not gonna elicit a lot of good feelings in you, but it was still a very good story. By the way, I designed and made this crochet koozie, so if you're a crochet enthusiast and you want to go check out my Etsy shop for this pattern, I will link it down below, and there is a coupon code for you, so go check it out. Is anyone else obsessed with sparkling water? I like recently got into it this year and I love it. Alright, the next book I read on Kindle Unlimited. It is called That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming, and let me tell you, I am obsessed with this series. It is so funny, diverse characters, monsters, spicy. The world that she's creating is so fun. I feel like she's gonna have several books in this series, and I'm so stoked for every single one. I want to own this book physically. I loved this so much. The title tells you it all. Like, demons are not welcome in this world. They're evil. They attack the people in her realm. A demon attacks her and she like accidentally saves him, and then she realized he was like under this like spell or curse or something like that, which she like accidentally broke on him, and it turns out demons are great. They're really nice. They've just been put under the spell by this evil witch lady, and I don't know what else to say about this series, but like, you should read it if you want to have a good time, because you can tell Kimberly had a good time writing it and I had a great time reading it. The next book I listened to / read was Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. I thought that a friend had read this and recommended it to me, and so that's why I picked it up. She did not. It was, I don't know where I saw this, but it ended up being so fun. This politician has twins, and when they're angry and emotionally unstable, they burst into flames. So the politician's wife calls up her best friend and is like, hey, can you nanny my kids for me? Oh, by the way, they burst into flames. So I guess it's magical realism, and it was just so quirky and fun and like found family, and like it made you feel warm, and I thought the narrator did an excellent job. It was really funny. I really enjoyed it. The next book I read on Kindle Unlimited was That Time I Got Drunk and Needed a Love Potion at a Werewolf by Kimberly Lemming. Don't you love her titles? They're so fun. The title tells you it all. Like, the main character in this, she's so funny. a guy was trying to hit on her. Basically, she's of a certain age where it's expected she gets married, societal expectations, and this guy tries to give her a love potion. This all happens in the first chapter, it's not spoilers. And when she figures it out, she gets angry and she throws it at him, but he dodges it and it accidentally hits a werewolf. And so the werewolf is like obsessed with her, but he's actually a really good guy, like really sweet. I just like another really fun book. The next physical book is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I saw so many people talking about this, so I wanted to pick it up. I loved that it was small town, big city romance. It's also age gap romance, which is only a problem or like a thing for a little bit of the book. I liked how that resolved a lot. It's kind of Grumpy Sunshine too, or like Hopeless Hopeful. You know, is that a trope? We need to make it a trope. Alexis is at this really tough point in her life. She's a doctor. She has this family legacy. She might be getting like this giant promotion soon, and like her life, she has a home. Her life is in the city, but through an accidental trip, she meets Daniel in this very small town. He's kind of like the mayor there. He owns this house, he owns this business, like his life is there, but they fall for each other. And so it's just this exploration of like, what is your future, and like what parts of it do you control when so much is riding on it. I loved their relationship so much. It was very slow burn, which I'm not necessarily a fan of. I just didn't like how black and white they thought. They could have been together so much sooner if they hadn't been so black and white. Just like think outside the box a little bit, but some people really enjoy that. It was really well done. It was beautiful. Just not necessarily my favorite. The next book I read was Borrowed from Libby, Bravely by Maggie Stiefvater. I totally butchered that. I'm so sorry. It's basically a continuation of Brave. So where the movie Brave ends, it's a few years later, and Merida hasn't really done much, and she encounters one of the old gods and kind of upsets them and is challenged to change her home and everyone in it in a year. And it was an adventure. It took me a little while to get into it, but about like halfway through it got really fun. It got really fun. I enjoyed it. The next physical book I read, but it was a library book, was When Stars Collide by Susan Elizabeth Phillips. This is my second book read by her, and I have to say I really enjoy her writing. It's really fun. What happens is these two people get picked up to promote a very expensive, very fancy watch. One is a very big opera singer, and one is like a second string professional quarterback. And just like basically what happens is there was like a misunderstanding, so this girl really hates him, and so it's like enemies to lovers, but like I just loved how their relationship progressed and how they grew to trust each other, and it's kind of like a mystery or slash thriller slash romance. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend. Next, I read Angie's Gladiator, which is next in the Ice Home series by Ruby Dixon. This was really sweet. It wasn't as spicy, but Angie, she woke up pregnant on this alien world. And so it's about her struggles, feeling separated, like separate from the other women and from the other men too, because the men like don't pay her like of attention because she's pregnant already. They can't like resonate, they can't be mates or whatever. So that and like the struggles of being a mom and like finding someone she can trust. I really loved it. The next book that I read was Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly. I actually listened to it on audiobook. The setting is this cooking show, and one girl, she just got out of a marriage. She's still left feeling very guilty about it all. The other person is trans, and I mean, they've been through it with their family's expectations and obviously society's expectations, so they're both here to win this cooking show. I loved the cooking show aspect of it. It was so fun, but about halfway through the book it stopped being about the cooking show and more about their relationship, and things just progressed so quickly between them. I had a hard time believing it. So I'll say like up to halfway, so much fun, and after that like not my favorite, but it was still a fun listen. I also love the representation. Next, I read Wings of Fire, The Dragonette Prophecy by Tweety Sutherland. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm obsessed with this series. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I post about them all the time. I picked this up because a ton of my students in South Korea talked about this series all the freaking time. And I said when I got back home, I would read it to figure out what they were talking about. And oh my gosh, I see why they are so obsessed. It is so fun. Basically, there's all of these different kinds of dragons. They live in different colonies, like mudwings, the sea dragons, the night dragons, the air dragons. And they live separately, but there's this like giant war that's going on. But this prophecy gets spread and created about them, saying that the war is going to end in 20 years. It's going to be these 5 dragons from different colonies that come together and finish the war. And that's what this book is about. So fun. Highly recommend. Next, we have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I actually tried reading this a long time ago. Didn't quite get into it, and then like rechecked it out on Libby. The hold took forever. Loved it. I highly recommend reading The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo first, because there is a character in there that also shows up in this book, and it actually made it click a lot more. And when you get to the party scene, like, holy cow! I loved Nina so much, and like her loyalty and how much she took care of her family, and I loved how much her family realized that. And just, wow, I loved it. And Taylor Jenkins Reid is so good at the floating third-person narrator, which is kind of a pet peeve of mine because some people, it just like confusing to me and I just can't get into the story, but this story was awesome. I didn't grab this one. Okay, next we have The Royals Next Door by Karina Hall. This is enemies to lovers. Basically, this girl Piper, another Piper, lives next to this mansion on like this easement, and that mansion gets rented out by royals, but their bodyguard is like, no ma'am, so they kind of butt heads, and it's just, it was really sweet. I really like the idea that the royals were like part of the story but weren't the main part of the story, and so I really liked Piper's relationship and the bodyguard Harrison. Also very grumpy sunshine, super cute. I really enjoyed it. Next we have another Wings of Fire book, The Lost Heir. This one was fun. This follows Tsunami, the water dragon. I forget what they're called. The Sea Wings dragon. She is like super sassy. Take charge, we love, a boss woman. It was really fun, and it was really, Tweety's imagination is phenomenal, and like they have like different kingdoms, and it was just so cool. I loved it so much. Next we have Hannah's Hero on Kindle Unlimited by Ruby Dixon. Hannah suffers from anxiety, and she also had like this amazing opportunity on Earth kind of ripped from her whenever she was taken and brought to Ice Home, and so she struggles with that a lot. She's kind of an outcast in the Ice Home group because she does do some things because of her anxiety, and the others just don't really understand. So whenever her mate finds her, it's just so sweet, and he's just so patient, and it was so sweet. Next is Debbie's Distraction by Ruby Dixon, another KU. And you guys, this is my #1 favorite book from the series, from Ice Planet Barbarians. I am obsessed with Debbie. She is Indian American, and she's obsessed with science, and she studied, I forgot what it was called. Basically, she studies species and how they have evolved. It was just like so fascinating and nerdy, and I loved that. Like, I resonated with that. But also in Deck's story, he's paraplegic, and oh my gosh, his journey, and they work together to help him walk again, and it was just my favorite. I loved them so much. Next, I read The Heart Principle by Helen Hong. This was a Libby borrow, and it was so sweet. And also, like, kind of heartbreaking Basically, the main character is like this viral violinist, and she just feels broken after she went viral because the joy is sucked out of it. She meets this guy, Quinn, I believe is his name. He's tatted up, he's a biker dude, and he is the marshmallowiest marshmallow you'll ever meet. He is so sweet, freaking loved him so much. And their relationship progresses, and it's her just kind of trying out new things and some things that happen with her family and mental illness. It was just really well done. I'm not selling it well at all, but like, read this book, please. Next we have Bride of the Shadow King by Sylvia Mercedes. This was an ad for me on Instagram. Like, I saw it all the time, so finally I just tried it out. It's a fantasy kind of romance series. The sister is supposed to marry the Shadow King to bring the two worlds together and bring magic back to her kingdom. Something happens and the other girl marries him, the main girl, and it did not go like I was expecting it to go, and I think the series has a lot of potential, but it just didn't hit home for me. Next we have The Fine Print by Lauren Asher, and I love this so much because it's very Disney-esque. They work at Dreamland, and Zara is like so sassy and sunshiny and just full of hope, and I loved that. She kind of becomes a creator for them. Rowan is there to kind of work on a project and go, and they connect and end up working together, and I loved it so much. Next I read Terms and Conditions, also by Lauren Asher. It's the same series. It's the second book in the series. This is actually the third brother, and this is the first brother, but I guess he finds love first. This is a marriage of convenience, and I loved the theory of it, but I didn't like the execution of it. I didn't end up liking Declan or Iris very much. Like, I connected with Iris, but her resistance and like Declan's assholishness at times. I mean, like, they reconcile and they have sweet moments, but it just wasn't my favorite. I'm so sorry. Next we have Places We've Never Been by Casey West. This is a YA kind of romance, but I think it's also very much like a self-discovery book. And it's friends to enemies to lovers, and the families meet up together and they go traveling for the summer, but there's like this urgency to all of it, and the main girl, she wants to find out why. She knows that there's something up, all while she's trying to grapple with like her ex-best friend who doesn't want anything to do with her anymore, and trying to figure that out, and like spend time with her brother before he goes off to college. And it was just really well done. I really enjoyed it. Next I read Scarlet by Marissa Meyer. This is the second book in the Lunar Chronicles. That's what it is, the Lunar Chronicles series. I enjoyed it. I didn't like Scarlet, but I liked the other characters a lot. Scarlet was just like so ragey, and like I get it, but at a point, like, the rage doesn't help you anymore. You know what I mean? It doesn't drive anything anymore, but the action was awesome. I actually liked Cinder's point of the book more, but anyway, I'm excited to see how the rest of the series continues. Next, we have The Hidden Kingdom, another of the Wings of Fire series. How beautiful is that? It's the Rain-Winged Dragons. This was like one of my favorites of the series because it's from the Rain-Winged Dragon, who's not supposed to be part of the prophecy, but she is. And everyone just kind of looked down on her, thought she was lazy and stupid and like wouldn't amount to anything, and some things go down and she definitely amounts to something. I just love how it ended. It was so good. Next we have Out of the Blue by Jason June. I read this on Libby. It was so fun. This boy on Earth, he, like, on the land, he's just had it rough. You know, bad breakup, all of these things. And there are the mayor, and when they come of a certain age, in order to become a part of the society, they have to go on a journey and help someone on land and be like a person for a month. That happens, they help, they develop a relationship, the mayor explores, and it was just really fun and really cute. Next we have The Chase by Elle Kennedy. I listened to this on audiobook and read the Kindle. edition. I didn't realize I had both. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. I didn't realize it was part of the Briar U universe, so I want to go back and read the Off-Campus series first and then come back to this. So next I read Nadine's Champion by Ruby Dixon, also on Kindle Unlimited. This was fun, not my favorite. He's just kind of too much for me, but his character growth is really good, so it was fun in the end. Next we have Wings of Fire, The Dark Secret. Elise, what you doing? This is the 4th in the series. It follows Starflight, the Nightwing's dragon. These covers are gorgeous. And wow, this one was a ride. This one was very key. All of them are key to the series. Let's just say Starflight's book, you discover a lot of things about the world that are kind of a surprise about his history, and like a major thing happens at the end that really drives the plot of the series. It was such a fun read. I actually did a reading blog about that if you would like to go and watch that. Next we have Grit, The Power and Passion of Perseverance by Angela Duckworth. I try really hard to read a nonfiction, kind of like a self-help, every month. It doesn't always happen. Not my favorite. It was very repetitive, and it was very much her writing about discussions with other people. So I mean, like, in a way it was good because she collected everyone's thoughts and like put it together, but when I read a self-help nonfiction book, I want to read what they have learned already, not how they learned it, if that makes sense. So it was okay. Could have been 100 pages shorter. And the last book that I listened to / read for the summer was We Bought a Zoo. I did it for part of a reading challenge. I normally probably wouldn't pick it up, but it was very informational, very full of facts, very different from the movie. The movie is a dramatization of the true story, although the movie's super adorable. It was good. It was a fun listen. Yeah. Would I normally read that? No, probably not, but it was still a good time. Wow, that was a lot of books and a lot of talking, and good luck to my future self while I'm editing this. I'm so sorry. Thank you for joining me as I talked about the 47 books that I read over the summer. I hoped you enjoyed this video. I hope that you found some books that maybe you would want to read, and my brain is like, my brain hurts a little bit right now. I don't think anyone made it this far, but if you did, wow, thank you so much. Please be sure to subscribe and join the family. Be sure to follow me on Instagram so that we can chat more about books. And I am gonna go take a nap now. Okay, everyone, I hope you have an amazing day. See you next time. I need to put these books back.